it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides.
Last night, Tucker Carlson took a page from George Orwell's 1984 and told his viewers to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears.
What's going on, folks? We have a big show for you today. So Tucker Carlson got exclusive footage from the House on some of the January 6th stuff, including the very famous Anon Shaman who was seen with the Capitol Police in the building. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Whoopi Goldberg, and others are super upset. We'll talk about it and weigh in on it. Then at the end, I want to talk about how Eric Adams, New York City mayor, is telling people not to wear masks while shopping and telling shop owners not to let people in with masks because of crime. Can't wait to talk about that. And thirdly, there was a huge debate between JJ Redick and Kendrick Perkins on one of the sports shows about whether two-time, soon-to-be three-time MVP Nikola Jokic deserves his awards or if he's just getting them because he's a white European. Without further ado, folks, the show starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. I wanted to cover the big drops from Fox News last night. I have a few other stories too, but the first one is Democrats are really upset at this. I found this ALX, some guy on Twitter I follow. He shared this. I think this guy blocked me, so I can't see his tweets anymore, but he said, "I'm traumatized all over again while watching this video recap. Don't try to tell me that January 6th was not worse than 9/11. These rioters were Americans." He's trying to say that January 6th was worse than 9/11. Apparently, that's what Karine Jean-Pierre is trying to say, too. She's saying this is the biggest attack on our democracy since, I can't remember what she said, the Civil War. I mean, regardless of what you think about January 6th, even if it's like, oh yeah, that wasn't the smartest thing or whatever, to say it's like worse than 9/11, these people just can't tell the truth. You gotta wonder, do they actually even believe themselves? But let's just watch the clip real quick, and I'm gonna react because, you know, the QAnon shaman became the face of the insurrection. He became the face of really like everything, and Tucker got some interesting footage from Kevin McCarthy that shows that the Capitol Police are just like walking this guy around. Basically, they are his tour guides in these videos, at least. Let's watch.
Dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th. The industry.
I'm not saying it's the smartest thing to walk around the Capitol building. I don't think it is, but this idea, like if you read, you know, I'm just going to show you real quick. This guy, the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, was sentenced to 41 months in prison. If you read the police report, you know, they're talking about how he was a flag bearer and how terrifying it was that he was carrying a weapon. You know, they charged him with a weapon for that flag. All I'm saying is, you know, if you really felt like he was a threat, like, listen, this guy should not be in the Capitol building. The Capitol Police had like, I don't know, 20 different times to arrest him, 20 different times to tell him to walk out since he wasn't like hitting anybody. I'm sure if they would have said like walk out or you're going to get charged, I don't know. It's all very odd to me. I don't think January 6th is like the greatest day in the world. I don't think it was worse than 9/11, obviously. But this idea that he should have been charged 41 months, like his flag was a weapon, if you really felt that way, they could have arrested him or told him to leave. But instead, that footage really does make it look like they're his tour guide. That's all I'm going to say. I have a few clips I want to play, and then I'm going to tell you my reaction and what I really think of it, because some people are also accusing him of being like a lib in disguise or an operative or, a Fed, like because he just looks so outlandish. Personally, after seeing how heavily he got charged, I think he was just basically the face of the quote-unquote insurrection because his look was so viral. It's the perfect look for thumbnails. It's the perfect look for documentaries, like, make him the cover. He's very photogenic because he dresses up. I think at every protest you have a lot of signs. You do have some quirkier people. So my personal opinion is, before I play these other clips of some Democrats and Mitch McConnell crying about this stuff, I just made a little compilation, is, if he was a Fed or an operative, I don't think he would have got charged at all or this much. I really just think he was like a guy that wanted a lot of attention. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went to the protest being like, I'm going to be the guy. I want the attention. I want to be the guy. I want to walk through the halls. And, unfortunately, he ended up being central charged on that. So I'll say more, but let's watch a compilation of how Democrats and Mitch McConnell are reacting to this quote unquote, I would just say not quote unquote transparency. It's the House releasing video files. It's not even that crazy.
Or, the way the Nazis would build a Potemkin village. Tucker Carlson's doing the same thing with the footage from 1/6. It's just a kind of rewriting of history at the most dangerous level. It's a huge threat to our republic.
Last night, Tucker Carlson took a page from George Orwell's 1984 and told his viewers to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears.
These lies continue tonight. Rupert Murdoch, who has admitted they were lies and said he regretted it, has a special obligation to stop Tucker Carlson from going on tonight now that he's seen how he has perverted and slimed the truth, and from letting him go on again and again and again. Not because their views deserve such opprobrium, but because our democracy depends on it.
Concern is how it was depicted, which is a different issue. Clearly, the chief of the Capitol Police, in my view, correctly describes what most of us witnessed firsthand on January 6th. So that's my reaction to it. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
Last night, Tucker Carlson cherry-picked video surveillance from the January 6th insurrection, severely downplaying the events of that day. He said the mob was orderly and meek and that they were tourists instead of insurrectionists. What's your response to Carlson and to Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who granted him access to that video?
Anybody who watched that video would strongly disagree. Anybody who watched that video with their own eyes in a real way and saw what happened on that day would disagree with what was just stated. The president has been very clear. January 6th was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War, and we should be focused on making sure that never happens again.
The president was clear. That was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Apparently, even Karine Jean-Pierre and President Biden are trying to say that January 6th was worse than 9/11. It's the worst attack on our democracy. I guess worse than Pearl Harbor. Worse, it's just pathetic. I'm going to try to be the adult in the room and just tell the truth. The truth is, I didn't watch the whole Tucker Carlson special, so I have no idea how he portrayed it. The truth is, there were some stupid people that did stupid crap. There were people pushing against the police. There were idiots. There were people who I think did illegal things actually. And, just because you're around 99% of people doing legal things and they shouldn't be charged, I think a lot of people are being overcharged, including the QAnon shaman. I'll talk about that later. But there were stupid people who did stupid things. So if that wasn't portrayed, then maybe that wasn't the full story. But here's what I'll say before I play this stuff from, Thomas Massey's opinion. He's a House member. Transparency is a good thing. So if you really want us to know what happened on that day, release all the footage, release all of it, because the QAnon shaman was escorted into the building. I'm not saying everybody acted as peacefully as the QAnon shaman. He acted peacefully. He did. I don't care what people like him. They think who he think he is. He didn't really do anything violent. So if other people did violent things actually outside, if like 5 or 10 people did violent things, they should be charged for what they did. But that footage, why is Mitch McConnell so scared of it? Why is Chuck Schumer so scared? Like, what are they trying to portray? You think that guy who got escorted in by the Capitol Police deserves, 41 months in jail for that? Meanwhile, I don't have the clips loaded up, but there's clips of Kavanaugh protesters. They're sitting on the building. They're causing a huge scene. They're screaming. They're sitting on the floor in the Capitol. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people got set up because they thought that they could act like left-wingers. Like, left-wingers can bang on the doors. Left-wingers can stand all over the Capitol on all the stuff. Left-wingers can get into the building. They could throw a fit inside. They threw a fit inside. I wouldn't do that, not as a left-winger or right-winger. I know something about that just doesn't seem right to me. If I was there on January 6th, which I wasn't, I probably would have been like, nah, that doesn't seem like a smart idea. But, left-wingers did do that. I don't know if they got charged or not. I just think he got overcharged massively. Let's listen to what Thomas Massey says. He says, release all the files. This is sped up a little bit, but take a look.
You've exposed so many lies tonight with these tapes that it's changed my perception of what happened 2 years ago, and I was there. The tapes of people milling peacefully about. And my hat's off to your producers for sitting over there and going through hours of this.
Yes,
but I would love to unleash the resourcefulness of the American public on these videos. I think they should be released. I think it's poppycock that they can't be released because of some security issues. Look, I'm the one who's supposed to be secured by these buildings, and I'm not worried about releasing them. They need to be released. In fact, there was a Rasmussen poll that just came out that showed over 80%, 78% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans say that all the videos should be released, and they should.
Democrats and Republicans, according to that poll, I don't really trust polls, but if that's true, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, why not just release the footage so we could see everything that happened? I'm going to read a little bit from the QAnon shaman's court case. Then I have a few things to say. Then we're going to move to the next topic. So according to this report, CNN reported that he was going to get 41 months of jail time. This was a few years ago. He said, apparently he said, I was in solitary confinement because of me, because of my decision. I broke the law. I should do what Gandhi would do and take responsibility. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what men of honor do. He basically said, the QAnon shaman is sorry. He feels like he made a mistake. They were saying that he was super terrifying. They charged him because of the weapon. They considered that flag a weapon. Chansley said, I have no excuses whatsoever. My behavior is indefensible. This is like a PBS article I just posted or printed out. I just did like mainstream stuff just to see what they're saying about his charges. The judge said what you did was terrible. You made yourself the center of the riot. And then this is something interesting too, because Elon Musk responded to it, but someone on Twitter, J. Michael Waller, said Carlson's team said that the January 6th committee added audio to the silent CCTV footage, inserting screams and other crowd mayhem sounds to make it sound even more ominous. And Elon Musk seems to believe that as well. I wouldn't doubt the media did that. Here's what I'll say about the shaman, and then the whole thing in general. I don't think the shaman would have gotten charged, in my opinion, if he was a Fed. I don't think Feds get charged that often. And I think, and people say he was an actor because he was like a struggling actor or something. It's like, John Voight's an actor, Dean Cain's an actor, Kirstie Alley was an actor. There's a lot of actors that like Trump does their opinion not matter because there's an actor? People try to say, well, he used to be a rapper. Well, Kid Rock's a rapper. He likes Trump. He likes Republicans. I think, yeah, it is interesting. It's definitely suspicious. I think people have every right to be suspicious of the QAnon shaman. I mean, I am. It's just kind of odd, like this guy just shows up perfectly painted and he's the center of the insurrection. He's on every thumbnail. My guess, I don't know him. I've never talked to him. I've never met him. But this is my personal guess, is I don't think he was necessarily a Fed. I personally just think he was probably an opportunist of some sorts. He started getting into the QAnon stuff. A lot of people, I think, saw it as a way to fight pedophiles in the deep state. Others, I think it was like a branding opportunity. People that were like, oh, I could put myself in this world and be a star. You know what I'm saying? And I'll paint myself and everybody will think I'm such a hero. I think like combining your actor past with your present of like being a activist against the deep state. And I think some people just went like balls to the wall with it. And personally, I think he went balls to the walls. I don't think he was a cop or anything. I just think it's the perfect thumbnail. So you look at this guy and it's like, yeah, that's the guy. Follow this guy. Take pictures of this guy. Let's do it. And in his defense, the Capitol Police absolutely did look like they escorted him around. So how are you going to charge him 41 months saying he was some huge threat? If he was a huge threat and you thought his flag was a weapon, then all of those police officers should be under investigation, not like for any sort of a reason besides like incompetence or whatever. I don't know how the police things work, but if that's a weapon and you're charging him under that weapon and you let a guy walk around the Capitol for an hour with a weapon into doors, you should be probably fired because you're not good at your job, especially if your job is to protect the Capitol. Like, you're letting people in with what you consider a weapon. They didn't consider it a weapon. They didn't consider him a threat. In my opinion, they allowed people to get in the building, it looks like. And I'll say this on the other side too. I know some people don't want to hear it, but when you have hundreds of thousands of people at an event, not everyone is smart. Like, I know there are people who did stupid crap, and when you do stupid crap, you get stupid results. But how many people are being overcharged and how many people are being blamed for stuff they didn't do? There's people being blamed and they're trying to charge them for standing outside the Capitol. You're allowed to stand outside the Capitol. And when Democrats are there, sometimes you're allowed to go in the Capitol. What are the rules? I have no idea. I didn't go to January 6th. I felt like something seemed off with it because Trump kept selling Moderna vaccines and I didn't trust it. But in general, it's like, I don't think everybody being charged, it should be charged. And the people who actually did violent acts or did stuff and broke stuff, they should be charged. To Trump supporters and whoever, it's like, just be a little smarter. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's flawed. I'm not trying to say like I'm holier than thou. But when you're at an event, sometimes people just want to be that guy. There's always that guy. It doesn't matter if it's a left-wing event, right-wing event. Somebody's got to be that guy. They got to push. They got to go through the window. They got to push it too far. And when you're at such a heated event like that, try to be smart. Because even if they open, like, if they let you in the Capitol, to me, that's not that crazy. I mean, I've seen that happen with liberals all the time. But when you see that room filled with people, it's like some sort of political room and everyone's standing around it. Like, doesn't that kind of seem like a setup to you? They're just letting you in a room and you get to take over the whole room and do a whole like thing for Instagram. I think a lot of people there were just there for a selfie. I don't think they were there to hurt anybody. I just think it's like, if I stand on the steps and I take a selfie, I'm going to look like such an activist hero. If I go in and take pictures of Pelosi's desk, I'm going to look so funny. Like, I think it was more a troll. I'm not saying it's smart, but a 41-month charge for that, a little too much, in my opinion. To say it's worse than Pearl Harbor, 9/11, that's borderline psychotic. With that being said, I want to say with the Q, Anon Shaman, and Ashley Babbitt, this is what's sad to me, okay? And I don't know Ashley Babbitt. I've never met her. I didn't know about her when she was alive. QAnon Shaman, I've never met to him. I've never spoken to him. I can't tell you who he is. I can't tell you what type of person he is. So what I'm going to do is not pretend to. I might have an opinion, but I'm not going to stand here like a lot of people and say, oh, he was a Fed, when you don't know that. He could be an innocent guy who just got caught up in it, did some stupid stuff, and now he's rotting in prison, and all the people that he thought were on his side are calling him a Fed. With Ashley Babbitt, you know how many people have said she's an op and found pictures? This girl got shot, and now the people that were supposed to be on her team are calling her a Fed, and they don't even know that. They're just guessing or they're just suspecting. So at least, in my opinion, if you're going to reach and say something and claim something that you don't know for sure, just claim you don't know for sure. Be honest about it. Be like, I feel like she might be this, but I don't know. Or I feel like the Q shaman. Don't be like, oh, I'm sure. You're not sure. And if you look at her Twitter feed, Ashley Babbitt, it was filled with Q stuff. It really was. And she's not the only one. There's millions of people that still to this day think that Trump is going to arrest the pedophiles tomorrow and he didn't sell vaccines because vaccines a code for the deep state and the Vatican. It's like they're taking every conspiracy theory, that most of which are true, rolling it in a ball, and just now they're like completely brain damaged and they can't think straight because they don't even know what's real or not. Because like when Trump says something that he didn't say, it's a secret code, and he doesn't mean vaccine, he's talking about cure. Like, they've lost their mind. A lot of people have lost their mind over this, and in my opinion, this is the ultimate tragedy. Is all these people, not everybody, but probably tens of thousands of people, went to the Capitol believing this stuff, thinking that Trump had some secret plan to arrest the pedophiles. And sadly, the exact opposite was true, is the feds weren't getting arrested by the Q people. The Q people were getting arrested by the feds. So I feel like the QAnon shaman probably got swept up in that, thinking he was going to go like fight the pedophiles. But the truth was he was going to a Fed trap, and they used him and played him like a fiddle. Now he has to sit in prison. He thought Trump was his friend. Trump doesn't give a crap about him. He thought all the Q people were his friend. Half the Q people are calling him a Fed. Ashley Babbitt loved QAnon. It was all over her Twitter feed, and now half the Q people are like, oh, she's an agent, she's a clone, she's a Fed. So it's like, as they say in hip-hop culture, you can't be loyal to the streets because the streets aren't loyal to you. All these rappers that are super ghetto and gangster, it's like you're so gangster, but you can't be a professional gangster. Now you just have low-level people pissed at you. You can't be loyal to the streets because the streets aren't loyal to you. You don't want to be a professional gang-banging basketball player like Ja Morant. It's not going to work. At a certain point, you want to get away from the streets. It's the same thing with this type of stuff. It's like these people are loyal to the foil, but none of these people are even loyal to them. You show up in an event for Trump thinking he really has your back. No, he's looking out for himself. He's like, it's not my fault. I told him to peacefully protest. You think all these Q people have your backs, but the second you get caught, they'll call you a Fed. So I'm just saying it's quite the tragedy that Ashley Babbitt probably thought she was like doing some sort of secret plan to arrest pedophiles, and she got shot. And now half the people that she sacrificed herself for are calling her Feds and stuff. And then same with the Q guy. It's like, I don't know who the guy was. It's definitely odd. It's definitely weird. Personally, after reviewing all this stuff, I really just think he was someone who tried to put himself front and center of an event, and it wasn't the event you really want to put yourself front and center of. So he took the entire brunt of the event, because he wanted to be the star of it. But now he is the star, but instead of being the star of Trump arresting the pedophiles, he's the star of him rotting in prison and all the people he thought liked him not liking him. And I'm not saying that everything's false or everything's true, but when it comes to like the whole Q narrative, which is still going on, obviously there's pedophiles, obviously there's bipartisan corruption, but in my opinion, they've become like mentally ill, because when the lockdown happened, they don't have to admit this. It wasn't everybody. I'm not trying to group everyone in, but my biggest opponent during the lockdown was a bunch of Q accounts, because I started reporting that, mandatory vaccines were coming and the lockdowns were bad. And I was like, Trump's in on the lockdowns at the beginning, 15 days to slow the spread. I started to rail against it. Trump said Sweden should have closed down. And I'm like doing normal reporting just like I always do. And I'm like, hey, lockdowns are bad. And in my DMs on Instagram, I had a bunch of psychopath Q people being like, oh, the lockdowns are good. They're good. We have secret codes, and the Vatican's getting arrested. People that I even know that I used to be friends with are making YouTube videos, getting hundreds of thousands of views, telling people, guys, it's a good thing that Europe's getting locked down. It's good that Europe's getting locked down because the Vatican's going to get arrested. And people People are buying this shit because it's like Nancy Drew for adults. It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery. People are like, oh, Anomaly, you don't understand. The lockdown's a good thing. Anomaly, you don't understand. You're a bad person now because the lockdowns are secretly a good thing to fight the pedophiles in Europe. So they actually got brain damaged and brainwashed into thinking that lockdowns were a good thing. And then 2 months later, after myself, Dr. Sheep, and others kind of like broke the narrative and people started realizing that like Fauci wasn't the real deal and the lockdowns were bad, then they flipped and said lockdowns were bad. But whether they admit it or not, because they have this psychotic behavior where they never admit what they did. Like anytime you're like, remember when you were pro-lockdown a month ago? I was never pro-lockdown. I never did that. Like they literally become delusional because they think they're like demigods of this like demonic agenda that they've been following, where they're like, oh, no, when I say lies, it's misdirection. I never said I was pro-lockdown. I trust the plan. I mean, secretly what I meant when I said lockdown was open up, because the word vaccine doesn't mean vaccine, because we believe everything Trump says unless he says something we don't want him to say, then we don't believe it. Like they literally lost their minds scrambling their brains because it's like they love Trump, but if he says something they disagree with, they have to like play 5-dimensional chess. So anyway, long story short, for years, I mean, I interviewed people in 2017, 18, 19, Praying Medic. We had a debate years ago where I asked them, like, before the lockdown, I was like, it sounds like you want martial law. You could find that debate somewhere. Praying Medic was like one of the biggest QAnon decoders. We had a debate in, I think, 2018, okay, December 2018. And I said to him, I said, listen, I think pedophiles are real. I agree with you there. I think both parties are corrupt. But what I'm concerned about, as somebody that's not completely brain damaged and brainwashed, I'm concerned about the fact that everything he was saying when we were debating, he kept saying like martial law. And I'm like, dude, I've listened to quote unquote conspiracy theories for decades. Martial law is not a good thing. Martial law means the government is going to like lock you in your house. That's not good. You don't want martial law. But like Praying Medic was trying to tell me that was a good thing because QAnon told him that martial law is when the pedophiles are going to be arrested. So people that were following the Q stuff were getting brainwashed into thinking that lockdowns were actually a good thing before they even happened. It was like 3 years of programming that like Trump was going to use martial law and the military to trust the plan to arrest the pedophiles. So whenever the government gets big and the military goes out, that's a good thing. So when the lockdown happened, most of them, I'm not going to say all, they thought the lockdown was a good thing. They thought Europe being locked down was to arrest the Vatican. They started posting fake articles. They thought this lockdown was good. They were programmed for years to think that lockdowns were good. And then after that, they never admit to it. They always lie. Oh, Easter, there's going to be a big thing on Easter. Nothing happens on Easter. We never said Easter. Trust the plan. They're like delusional, dishonest psychopaths. Anyway, you fast forward, everybody thought that Trump was still going to be in office. They're telling me, I'm 100% sure January 6th is going to be the day. January 6th is going to be the day. They got brainwashed to think January 6th is the day that Trump has a secret plan. January 6th is the day that Trump's going to do some sort of special thing. So a lot of people like Ashley Babbitt and like Anon Shaman, whether people want to admit it or not, they were going to January 6th thinking that Trump was like this mysterious wizard with some sort of crazy plan, when in reality, he's a vaccine salesman who helped lock down the country and was basically just running his base in circles with no plan because, it was like a Hail Mary attempt to try to get something to happen. So QAnon Shaman goes there. He's front and center wearing the horns, being like, yeah, Ashley Babbitt is treating it like a military mission. You go to her Twitter page. It's sad. It was all Q stuff. Okay. So she goes there thinking she's on some sort of covert mission. And the exact opposite of what Q was quote unquote mysteriously promising these people, or they thought he was, happened. Everybody thought that day or someday, they never knew when it was going to be. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be Easter. It's not Easter. The lockdown's good. It's bad. It's January 6th. They never know what day it is because it's like a role playing for adults. And they all go to January 6th thinking that was the day. This is the day Trump's going to be elected. This is the day Trump has a secret plan. There were people like Simon Parks, some weird guy from England or something. I don't even know where he's telling people that like martial law, like he was like, oh, when you see the police around the Capitol, that's a good thing. They're gonna like, oh, when you see police, the police are gonna arrest the deep state. All these stupid fake accounts of either total disingenuous people or egotistical people. They're brainwashing all these people to think like, yeah, they're there to arrest the bad guys. But the truth was the opposite. That was the Fed trap. It wasn't the Q people going to the Capitol to arrest all the pedophiles. It was the feds waiting for the Q people to come in the Capitol to either shoot them or arrest them. So it was like the total opposite. It was like 3 years of brainwashing leading to a big event where all the bad people are going to be arrested. And in reality, the bad people took office and all the good people got arrested by the feds. It was a total setup, whether people realize it or not, whether that's what it was intended to do. I'm not going to sit and argue who's posting it, why it happened. I can't prove that. There's some good information on the Q stuff. There was like valid research. Some people didn't lose their minds over it and just got awakened to some extent, but a lot of people did lose their minds. So the reason I'm talking about this is simple. I don't think Ashley Babbitt was a Fed necessarily. I think she was somebody that just liked Trump a lot and liked Q a lot and thought she was serving a purpose and thought there was going to be some sort of big moment, and there wasn't. And I think the QAnon Shaman was the same way, and there's millions of people like him where they just, thought that showing up would do something. But he's more of like an actor. You know what I'm saying? He's been an actor. He had his face paint. He's like, I'm going to be the star of this show. I'm the QAnon Shaman. Look at me. I want attention. I want fame. I want to put myself set in front of a movement. And it's like, you don't really want to be set in front of an anonymous movement. It's like the guy who posts Q doesn't even want to tell you who he is. So why in the world would you want to be the face of a movement that was started by a person that doesn't even want to be a face of a movement? Like, it never really made sense anyway. But that's all I'm going to say. I don't know who Ashley was. I don't know who the QAnon Shaman is. You could have your opinions. You could have your theories. It doesn't bother me. I just think if what I said is true, it's just really sad because these people think all these people have their back, Trump and, this movement they're a part of. But really, this movement's one of the most unloyal movements ever. And I'm talking about like the Q stuff. Like, I met a lady one time. It's like the only lady I met that like wasn't super pumped to see me. Like, she was like, I used to like you, but I don't. And I'm like, I don't care, lady. Like, it didn't bother me. But she's like, I'm into the Q. And I'm like, that's fine. I've debated Q people. I have a lot of overlap. I think there's some valid stuff in there. I'm not going to sit and act like it's all wrong. There are pedophiles. There is human trafficking. Like, that's all real. But just because the human trafficking is real doesn't mean Donald Trump didn't get lobbied by Big Pharma and like he has a secret plan. That's where but anyway, she tells me, she's like, I unfollowed you. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. But anyway, she's like, it's not just, and she like looked like skittish and like she was a mess. But anyway, she's like, it's not just me after you. She's like, they're unloyal to me too. They call me an agent all the time. And I'm like, well, of course they do, because if your movement's not based on any sort of foundation, then the same thing that you're putting out to others is always going to come back to you. Like, if you're in some sort of movement where everyone's very accurate and everyone's very fair and everyone's very balanced and everyone has opinions but they don't claim it as fact, then it's going to be a good place to be. But if you're in something that they literally just don't believe reality, it's like, if Trump says vaccine, it's secret plan, the ship has pedophiles on it, Europe got locked down because the Vatican's getting arrested. It's like, if that's your movement, expect them to be unloyal to you because they're not operating in reality. So just like they turn on other people, they're going to turn on you. Of course. I wasn't shocked that this lady said that they turned on her. Why wouldn't they? And I think that's kind of what happened, in my opinion, to the people. Not all, but like some of the people there, like Ashley and the QAnon Shaman. And now all the people they thought were their friends are going to call them feds, because that's just about how loyal people are. And I want to say this before I move to the next story, because people get in these false paradigms. Like, for instance, it's like, who do you want, McCain or Romney? Or like, who are you going to vote for, Obama or Romney? Are you team red or team blue? Well, what if I told you that if you would have voted for Mitt Romney, like, things wouldn't have been that different? You would have got judges, the House would have done a little something for taxes or whatever. But for the most part, the difference between Obama and Mitt Romney was not this, it's this, okay? The same false paradigm comes from, I think, DeSantis and Trump. DeSantis is accusing Trump or Trump's accusing DeSantis, and like, the difference between them is minuscule. And in my opinion, they're controlled by the same people. Like, the same people that are controlling DeSantis are also controlling Trump. But they want you to get caught in this false paradigm, because now Republicans are going to spend 2 years fighting with each other, but they're not going to get to the core of who the donors actually are to get to the gist of it. So it's like, everything's a false paradigm. If you notice that Trump took big pharma money, you must be a Democrat or you must be a dissimp. Like now, 3 months ago, when I used to say things about Trump that were true that people don't want to hear, people would just call me a Democrat, even though I'm not. But it's like, oh, because they're caught in this false paradigm. It's like, you must be a Democrat if you're not Republican. Like, if you're not this, you're that. And like, that was the programming that a lot of people had. Now people are starting to call me like a DeSantis dissimp. They're like, oh, you must be paid by DeSantis. But this is a new narrative because Donald Trump just basically came out and said, like, either you're with me or you're with DeSantis. And all the Trump influencers are like, oh, if you like DeSantis more than Trump, you must be sold out. But I'm actually not even that into DeSantis. I'm fine with you criticizing him. I'm fine with you talking about his donor money. You can make fun of his cowboy boots and his size. I don't really care. I'm just doing the same reporting on Trump I've been doing for a year. But now the false paradigm has shifted from blue versus red to Trump versus DeSantis. So people assume that I must be a DeSantis dissimp if I say that about Trump. Like, people are that programmed. So in my opinion, with the Q stuff, a lot of people in the Q movement will say, well, if you criticize Q, you must be the media. It's Q versus the media. And here's another false paradigm. The media is corrupt. The media is terrible. And I'll be honest, I'm not one of these people that just says, oh, it's all stupid. It's really not. What Q did was take every conspiracy theory, many of which are absolutely true, and just scramble up people's heads so they can't see left and right. Like, martial law was and lockdowns was not a new conspiracy theory that became a reality. Alex Jones talked about martial law. Bill Cooper talked about martial law. Robert Anton Wilson talked about martial law. David Icke talked about martial law. Martial law is not a new theory. It's not even a theory. It's a reality. But in general, or that sort of like lockdown, this has been around for 100 years. Everybody's seen how the U.S. government was going, and everybody knew about martial law. What QAnon did was it took the martial law thing and told people it was a good thing. So it's like Alex Jones said martial law would be bad. Bill Cooper said martial law would be bad. David Icke said martial law would be bad. Robert Anton Wilson said martial law would be bad. You know, even people like George Carlin probably said martial law would be bad. But QAnon, the anonymous 4chan poster, told you through via cookie codes that could mean anything that martial law is good because Donald Trump is on your side, and if he does martial law, it's for the pedophiles. So that's what the Q people don't understand. They get caught in this false paradigm of thinking that it's media versus Q, and if you're not me, you must be them. And dude, millions of like MAGA moms have been brainwashed with this stuff. Everybody I talk to, they're like, my mom believes that. My mom watches X22 Report. My mom loves that. My mom, like, for some reason, moms are like the key victim of these guys that are just brainwashing them, taking all real conspiracy theories and giving you the wrong outcome. It's like, you know, a lockdown's happening, but it's good because the Vatican's going to get arrested. January 6th is the day that the pedophiles are going to be arrested. All the Capitol Police are lining the building on like, you know, March 20, like after the election. All the Capitol Police are all around because Democrats are being insane and they're acting like they're under attack. So that's why the police are there. The police are there because Democrats are trying to put on this narrative that they're being attacked. So they close the Capitol and put all the police. And then a bunch of these brainwashing accounts are trying to tell people, oh, the Capitol Police are there to arrest all the pedophiles. And you got all these MAGA moms being like, Anomaly, you don't understand. The reason all the Capitol Police were there is so they can arrest all the bad guys. No, that's not why they're there. No one got arrested. You lie, but it's like it just never ends for these people. They're like completely caught in this delusion, and they think that you're the media if you're against their stupid lies all the time. It's like it's like this ego thing. They have to feel like they know more than everyone else, and they like, you know, they get their rocks off being like, oh, no. You don't understand. You don't have my IQ. And it's always people that aren't even that smart, but they're like, trust me, I watched Simon Parks and he told me that the police are there to arrest the bad guys. So you spend a year fantasizing about all the Capitol Police arresting the bad guys, but they never do it because the Capitol Police aren't doing that. That's not why they were standing in the streets. They're standing in the streets because Democrats told them to, because they're trying to portray that it was this crazy, dangerous, horrible thing that they're facing. So the point that I'm getting was a lot of stuff that the message boards were posting, it's not like it was all wrong or it's all fake. I'm not the mainstream media. Like, some of the links were real. Some of the information was real, but it's taking real information and scrambling your brain. I used to talk about this all the time, but I thought it kind of died down. This is just a topic I want to talk about it again over. But in general, it's like, if he posts 10 things on the Q message board and you create a religion around it, and it's like, well, that one wasn't true. It's like people started telling me, well, the message board told me disinfo is necessary. So he gives me 8 true things and 2 of them are not true. And I remember I debated Praying Medic and I said, okay, so if I was trying to like break it down logically because I'm like, dude, I agree with a lot of this stuff. But if disinfo is necessary and you're saying that the message board can also lie to you and give misdirection to fool you, and he was like, oh, that's to fool the deep state. So the message board will tell us lies sometimes to fool the deep state. And I go, if they're fooling the deep state, how do you know what's real? Because they're not being transparent about like, this is real, this is not. How do you know what's real? And he's like, like they don't even think of that. Oh, he's giving misdirection. But then how do you know what's misdirection or not? You believe that the lockdown's a good thing for 2 months. That's misdirection. Oh, but that disinfo is necessary. Like it's like a brainwashing. Like, how do you even know what's real? If it's real, it's real. If he guessed it right, he guessed it right. If he guessed it wrong, it's not wrong. He never is wrong. It's a religion. People created like a demonic, satanic religion, taking their Bible, crapping on it, and like painting Q on it and being like, oh, no, Jesus Christ. And then they start like throwing out Bible things. And it's like, yeah, I like the Bible, but the Bible says no false prophets. The Bible doesn't say to worship a message board and believe all this stuff. Someone said I'm out. I'm sure this is going to bother a lot of people because there's like millions of women that are still brainwashed by the stuff. It's like they don't even know. They follow anonymous people that don't even show their face, that just say things like they speak in codes. I can do that because I'm smart and I'm a poet. Like I'll just show you how easy it is to like do certain stuff like this. You see the painting in the back? Think of painting. What does painting remind you of? Picasso. How many years was Picasso born? Hundreds of years ago. What else is in the hundreds? 100%. That means full. 100% chance Trump is going to be in the White House on January 6th. Fast forward 3 years. What's 3? Think of 3. Which sports player was 3? Think back. It's like this. These are the games that people are playing, and it makes them feel smart. They're like, no. I'm really close to getting it. It's like, yeah, so just ignore the reality of bipartisan politics. Like whenever the politician you like does something that you don't like, it's like it never really happened. It's just like it's like a code that only you can understand. Like if Biden took $100 million and Trump took $100 million, it doesn't matter when Trump took it because like you like Donald Trump. And it's like, he might have hired pharmacy lobbyists, but when he hires pharmacy lobbyists, it's to like keep the corruption close. Why doesn't he just hire Hillary Clinton then, right? Put her on a pedestal. Oh, no. He's just doing it to expose her. It's like this big game people are playing that never ends. I'm going to move to the next story, but I want to talk about something that I saw on Twitter. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it, but I just thought it was interesting. So like this one guy, this is just interesting back and forth. He basically told me, because I was trying to, as I've been doing for a while, I'm not doing this reporting to be mad at somebody. It's just like how politics works. Like, Mitt Romney, John McCain, Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Kevin McCarthy, Donald Trump. There's something that goes on in politics, which is donor money. When donors give you hundreds of millions of dollars, you end up doing what they say. That's just how it works. I'm not hating. It's the profession. It's the same as when athletes take a bunch of money to sell a product. They're selling the product because they took the money. So I've pointed out, and people don't want to hear this, that Donald Trump took over hundreds of millions of dollars from corporations, and he took money from Pfizer, and he hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists to run top-level positions. He's in on it. But anyway, this guy hits me up, and this is like the most annoying thing, and it really annoyed me last night, but I think it's worth talking about. He goes, he quotes the Bible and says, those without sin need to cast the first stone. Anomaly, what are you, a perfect person? And I look at his feed because I'm like, okay, so if I'm doing reporting, right? If I report about donor money, that's me being a hypocritical Christian because I'm saying I don't sin. So should I just stop then? Because he's a Christian, I should just stop doing reporting, right? I shouldn't talk about when Joe Biden takes money or Trump takes money. That's not my job. I need to be a Christian and not talk about any sort of corruption or any sort of lobbying money, right? It's unchristian to talk about lobbying money, right? That's what it is. So I go to his feed. His feed is, you would think it would be filled with Christ quotes and Bible scriptures. His entire feed is filled with Republicans calling out corruption in Democrats. So why is he not the Christian hypocrite? You get what I'm saying? He says that and this is like, it's my pet peeve. like, it gets really under my skin. It shouldn't, but it does. It's like, oh, thou without sin shall not cast the first stone anomaly. Okay, then why is your feed filled with you complaining about Democrats? All you're doing is casting stones. But what you don't want me to do, and it's not even casting stones what I'm doing, I'm reporting on lobbying money. If $100 million is paid by mega corporations to Biden, they're not doing it for fun, they're doing it to control him. And the reason that Trump's administration didn't look like you wanted it to is because he took the money. That's the real Scooby-Doo mystery that QAnon's not telling you, is Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars and he folded just like every other president. Obama did the same, Bush did the same, Trump did the same. Oh, but it's not because you don't want to hear it. So it's just hilarious that it's like, I don't care about this Bible verse when it comes to criticizing Democrats all the time, but when it comes to Republicans, like, people are just throwing Bible verses at me like I'm a hypocrite and I should just not talk. Like, I shouldn't do reporting, I shouldn't do news analysis. But if I did the same exact reporting on a Democrat, I don't get any Bible verses. It's fine. You're great, Anomaly. You're the best. Thank you so much for revealing this. But if I do it about a Republican he likes, now the Bible verses start coming out and I'm not a Christian anymore. It's so pathetic, and people like that are such fake Christians. I'm not like, I'm a real Christian, you're a fake Christian. Everybody flaws, everyone has sins, but these are the people that mean nothing they say. They just take a Bible verse, put it on a Q post, take a Bible verse, say, you're not a Christian if you criticize Republicans I like, but you are a Christian if you do reporting on Democrats. Like, that's not Christianity. It's a new fake religion people have created around idol worship of politicians. And in my opinion, it's anti-Christian and it's satanic. It's like replacing the Bible with idol worship of politicians. Like, I don't want you to criticize the board I read on 4chan because I believe it now. I read it more than I read the Bible, but I'm a Christian. It's like, you're not a Christian if you criticize the guy I like, but I'm a Christian because I only criticize people I don't like. And I'm not even really criticizing per se. It's just the reality of how it works. If Trump says Sheldon Adelson's going to turn Marco Rubio into a puppet, which he said Sheldon Adelson's going to give a bunch of money to Marco Rubio and turn him into a puppet. That's true. Trump's not being a hater. Trump's not casting stones. What Trump is doing is reporting the truth, which is a very great thing to do. If Sheldon Adelson gives you hundreds of millions of dollars, he's going to turn you into a puppet. That's what Trump said before he ran. He said that about Marco Rubio. Trump was telling you the truth. But the problem is people don't want to do this reporting. Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars from Sheldon Adelson, and then Trump turned into Sheldon Adelson's puppet. Oh, but I'm the only one who wants to report on that, so I'm not a Christian anymore. What does it mean to be Christian if Christians only worship politicians more than they worship their God? Like, it's anti-Christian to do reporting. I can say that Marco Rubio would be turned into a puppet with Sheldon Adelson's money, but I can't say that happened to Donald Trump when it did happen because you don't want to hear it. And then you throw a Bible at my face and tell me I'm not a Christian. Like, this is the reality of why Christianity is really falling in America, because this is what Christians do. They don't even worship Christ. They don't even believe the Bible. They literally just enforce like political delusions. Like QAnon and Donald Trump religion got more push in America the last 3 years than Christianity did from Christians. They believe in Q more than they believe in Christ. They believe in, which is completely anti, false prophets and all that stuff. And same with the Trump thing. You could like Trump, you could support him, but it's like, I'm not a Christian because I do the same reporting for both sides. I'm not going to say I'm more Christian because I'm not perfect. I do sin and I never claim to not, but it's like, that's what I do. So do you want me to stop? Do you want me to just stop my entire job? Like, because I'm a Christian, I just shouldn't even talk about anyone? Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about donor money. Maybe that's what you want. Maybe you just want to play a fake game, right? That's what and that's what I'm starting to learn, where it's like, I'm not giving up. I'm not quitting. I like what I do. But really, it's like, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to do this for the next 10 or 20 years. I've had a lot of great stories. People saying beautiful things to me outweighs the bad things. So I'm not trying to like cry, boohoo. But it's like, at a certain point, like, people like to be lied to. People like a fake game. They like a fake Scooby-Doo mystery. They like to just like complain about the other side. And they really don't want the truth if it goes against their narrative. If you break their false religion that they've created over, you could literally like dress up as Jesus Christ and dance around and mock him, and most of these Christians wouldn't even care. But you question QAnon and they shit their pants. You know what I'm saying? You could dress up as Jesus and do blasphemous stuff, and 9 out of 10 of these Christians would be like, oh, I don't even care. I free speech, free speech. But then you say that Trump took $100 million from donors and they shit their pants and they say you're not a Christian. It's like, what does that tell you? And people don't want to believe this. I'm not saying everyone who likes Trump is this, and I'm not trying to generalize, but I do believe millions of people have created an entire new religion around the worship of Donald Trump. They literally believe it more than Jesus Christ. And if you say something that disagrees with it, they absolutely spiral. It's like, you know, the stages of denial. I posted them in 5 because I've had this conversation hundreds of times over the last couple of years, and a lot of it has been public on here. First, I report the donor money that he took and the bad people he hired because he took the donor money. First, they say it didn't happen. So they don't want to see it. Like, it didn't happen. That's fake. Show me proof. They always say this. It's this 5-stage denial. It didn't happen. He would never take donor money. He would never sell us out. Show me proof. And then I show them proof and they say, well, that's not true. That's a news source that I don't trust. Okay, well then I'll show you like directly from the like, you know, all open secrets and all this stuff. It's like you have to show where you get your donor money from. It's a campaign law. So it's not like I'm not looking at like NPR or anything. It's like all of this stuff is transparent. You could see the super PAC. You could see how much money Sheldon Adelson donated. You have to make this stuff public. So it's not a theory of mine. It's not a CNN article. So first they say, show me the proof. I show them the proof. They don't believe it. I show them more proof. Then they change their narrative from, oh, it didn't happen to, okay, it did happen. And then they start lashing out at me because I've questioned their religion. It's not a simple, I like this guy. It's a religion. It's a religion around politics. They don't want to believe the system, how it works, that both sides are corrupt and both sides take donor money and both sides work for big pharma. That hurts their religion. So it goes, I don't believe it. Show me proof. I don't believe it. Show me more proof. Okay, I see the proof and you're right, but now I'm still mad at you for showing me the truth that I didn't want to see because you questioned my God. So now I'm going to lash out at you. And now I'm going to say that everybody does it. So it's okay that both sides are corrupt because everyone does it. So, you know, the part of my religion is that this guy's fighting the status quo. But now that I found out that it's not really true, I'm still really upset because it's like these stages that I've gone through hundreds of times. And I'm getting to the point now where it's like, I really don't think people want the truth. I really don't think people want to heal. You know, this country's fatter than it's ever been. This country's more brainwashed than it's ever been. The media is disgusting. Every commercial is a pharmacy product that says that it's going to give you cancer. Donald Trump's on television saying that the vaccine's the greatest human achievement. He works for Big Pharma. He took Big Pharma money. He hired pharmacy lobbyists. But people don't want to hear it. So the country's just going to keep getting fat, just keep getting killed by Big Pharma. You know, keep getting lied to by the fat vaccine salesman, but they don't want to break that delusion because somebody told them on television or a message board that Donald Trump is secretly fighting the people that he's working for. Even someone I like, Ben Garrison. I love Ben Garrison. Great comic, right? Great independent cartoonist, American cartoonist. I love Ben Garrison. I can't say enough nice things about Ben Garrison. He posts a brainwashed like propaganda piece the other day that shows Trump's CPAC speech, and he's a huge cowboy, and like Lindsey Graham's running away. This is like the Ben Garrison piece. Like, oh my God, Trump's back in town, folks. Like he's brainwashing people with this comedy or comics, and it's like Lindsey Graham's running away. Lindsey Graham's not running away from Donald Trump. Stop lying to people, Ben Garrison. You're part of the reason now that people have lost their minds over this guy because you're playing into the fake cult worship of him. How are you going to make a fake graphic? You're no better than the left. You're making a graphic that that Lindsey Graham's running away from Donald Trump because he's back in town. Trump put Lindsey Graham on stage with him at his first rally. Trump says he's friends with Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is endorsing Donald Trump for president. So what, like, you know, you're creating this false reality that people are buying into, and it's why Christians and conservatives are losing their absolute minds. They've created a fake religion. You can leave, you can make comics. I don't have to agree with them. I'm not trying to take away your First Amendment, but it's like, why would you lie to people like that? Use your art for good, not to be another team player. Oh, he said a speech, so now Lindsey Graham's running hysterically. Lindsey Graham's only running to the rally because Trump invites him on stage. Ben Garrison doesn't speak at Trump rallies. Lindsey Graham does. It's a Lindsey Graham rally. It's like, stop. People are so like under a spell. But that's what it is. Long rant at the end. I have a few more things to say about other topics, but you know, overall, I think that a lot of people on January 6th got overcharged. I think that it was in many ways a setup where they wanted to make a huge scene. And here's the sad part. Some people are falsely charged. Some people got charged too much. I think the QAnon shaman got overcharged. And I think he shouldn't be in jail for that long. God bless the guy. But also a lot of people did do stupid crap. And it's like, next time, just think about what you're doing. Because if you're so hyped off, people were so hyped up on January 6th. And this is what, if people remember watching me in November and December and January, I wanted Donald Trump to win. I wanted Donald Trump to be president. I voted for him. I believed that maybe someone could release a Kraken. I was all for give him 3 months and let's see the evidence. But here's what I was explaining to people is I already saw the misdirection. I didn't know what was going to happen on January 6th. I couldn't have anticipated it. I don't have foresight like that, but just seeing how things were unraveling, I told people on my page, do you notice what's going on with January 6th? Everybody's saying we're all going to the Capitol to fight for Donald Trump. But if you remember March of 2020 and April of 2020, it was a bipartisan lockdown. It was both parties coming together to shut down America. And then in May, it was both parties coming together to do a vaccine scam called Operation Warp Speed, which Trump was proud of. Trump said to lock the country down. He said Sweden should have stayed locked down. Donald Trump even said that Georgia should have stayed locked down. I have the proof 2 months later. Trump wore a mask 7 months after the lockdown and said that I'm patriotic. I just saw that post. It was in July. He's like, I'm patriotic wearing my mask. I'm like, who is this guy? But the point that I'm getting is the misdirection I saw before January 6th was the point that every anti-lockdown protester that should have been out in the streets protesting the bipartisan corruption, should have been out in the streets protesting the bipartisan lockdowns, should have been out in the street calling out both parties for imploding our economy. Now, all of a sudden, they're running on the side of the vaccine salesman and they have no identity anymore. Now their identity is standing behind the vaccine salesman saying, oh yeah, and Trump's on Twitter saying Moderna, Moderna. If you check his Twitter from November to January, he was the biggest Moderna salesman. He sold the Moderna vaccine, which the government part owns, harder than Bill Gates. Donald Trump is the father of the vaccine. So I already saw the misdirection is every influencer, every organizer, everybody who was organizing protests against the lockdown, everybody that was calling out both sides of government, now they're all going to the Capitol to protest for Donald Trump. And everybody that went to the Capitol as an organizer got arrested, had to lay low, had to get lawyers, went to jail, went to court. So it was like a giant honeypot trap. Where's all these people that are protesting the lockdown? Let's get them all to go to a specific event and we'll let the vaccine salesman speak at it. And then once everybody goes, everybody gets in trouble. It was like a giant setup. And so I'm not saying that everyone should be charged. This is my opinion legally. If you didn't do anything, I don't think you should be charged. Protests are allowed. Marching is allowed. January 6th, if you didn't do anything illegal, you shouldn't be charged. I think a lot of the organizers are being overcharged. I think the QAnon shaman was overcharged. I think most people are being overcharged. If you actually did something stupid like broke a window, broke into somebody's office if you got escorted by the police in there, I don't think you should get in trouble. If the police open the door for you, I don't think you should get in trouble. But if you did break into an office or do something stupid or hit somebody with a flag, then you should get charged. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or MAGA. You can't do stupid stuff like that. So if you did something illegal, you should get charged. If the police let you in, I don't think you should get charged. If you were standing on the Capitol, I don't think you should get charged. And if you were an organizer and you didn't do anything, I don't think you should get charged. With that being said, I do think it was a setup, and I think in the future, people should be a little bit smarter and try to realize, well, wait, if I'm protesting the lockdowns, but now I'm standing in front of the vaccine salesman who locked the country down, what am I really doing? It took 4 months from the anti-lockdown movement, and everybody got sucked into the vaccine salesman movement, and all those people got in trouble. I don't think it was a coincidence. I don't think it was random. And I don't know who knew what. I can't speak for everybody. But I think when January 6th was happening, clearly it was like, oh my God, this is a honeypot for media. It's like if something goes wrong, we could use this as political motivation for the next 3 years to destroy Republicans. And they did exactly that. Thank you, Tucker Carlson, for releasing the footage. Thank you, Kevin McCarthy, for releasing the footage. Transparency is good. While there were some people who did stupid things on January 6th, most of the narrative is a complete overreaction. exaggeration, and it is what it is. Second story I want to talk about real quick is let me just show you 2 or 3 months ago. I think this was 2022 December. New York Times. It's time for New Yorkers to mask up again, Mayor Adams says. Donning a mask, Mayor Eric Adams urged New Yorkers to protect themselves against a swirl of viral illnesses in the city, including COVID-19, flu, and RSV. So this was just 2 or 3 months ago. I think it was literally December 2022, okay? Now let's look at Mayor Eric Adams this week. He says, Mayor Eric Adams to New York City shoppers, drop that mask. To prevent robberies, Mayor Eric Adams is telling shopkeepers to bar customers who refuse to lower their masks when they first enter stores. So they went from telling everybody to mask up to everybody to take off the mask in 3 months. Why? Something that we always knew was happening. Crime is easier to do when you have a face mask on. There were many political cartoons that showed the hypocrisy of like 2019 being like, excuse me, sir, can you take the ski mask off your face when you come into the bank? And then during COVID-19, it was like, excuse me, sir, can you put a ski mask on your face? Because we won't allow you into this bank if you don't have a mask on your face. So can you please cover up your identity when you come into this bank? Like, yeah, this is a criminal's dream. There's probably been thousands of criminals who have gotten away with more crime because now masking your identity is status quo. And after all this is said and done, was it really worth it? Did you really save that many lives? How many kids got learning disabilities off it? How many people did you psychologically abuse? How many kids got fatter when you took away their work? How many people killed themselves and how many people overdosed on drugs because you took away their purpose? How many people did you destroy? Not only did people get fatter, not only did abuse rise in certain areas, not only did like kids lose years on their lessons and they can't even function because there's so many cues that come from facial expressions. It's not just vocal to learn stuff. So they all have like learning disabilities now. Oh, but it was worth it, right? What changed now? There's still COVID. People are still getting sick. It still spreads. The vaccine didn't prevent transmission. Why is this all going away now? Do you know why? Because they were lying, okay? And the lie is too long. Now they can't run their states. Now their places are getting robbed. Nobody wants to live there. Life is turning into hell in these Democrat hellscapes. And now all of a sudden they don't want to test everybody. And now all of a sudden they don't want to force mask everybody. And now all of a sudden, because they gave people the vaccine that doesn't even prevent transmission. And they ruin people's lives at work. And they tried to ruin people's engagement like mine, and they tried to take away my money and reach because I talked about this sort of stuff years ago, and now everything we talked about, honestly, is being had on CNN. Every conversation that we had that they told us we couldn't had is being had by Democrat mayors. It's all coming out now because you can't lie forever. The lie doesn't last forever. But they got what they wanted. People got the vaccine. Vaccine manufacturers made tens of billions of dollars. The government made out like a bandit. And now all of a sudden they're going to tell the truth about it. All I could say, because I can't control what people do, is every mainstream media journalist, every puppet, every pawn, every idiot reading a script like the quote-unquote Whoopi Goldbergs of the world, you should feel absolutely ashamed for yourself of the role that you played in all this stuff. You want to talk about January 6th? I'll talk about it. I'm not one of these people that thinks it's like the greatest day. I don't think it was. I think it was stupid. However, January 6th is nothing compared to what you guys did. And that's what that event turned into. It turned into an excuse for the Democrats to point to and the perfect little meat on a plate that people fell hook, line, and sinker for so they can act like, oh my God, look how bad that was. You want to talk about January 2021? Let's talk about March, April, May, June, July, September, November. I don't even want to talk about the election right now because in my opinion, now everyone's like, let's talk about the election. Sure, I'll talk about the election. I'm not afraid to. But what you don't want to talk about because you got tricked, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you don't want to talk about March 2020. You don't want to talk about May 2020. You don't want to talk about April 2020. You don't want to talk about June 2020. How quickly both sides of politics forgot about March through November. People are brainwashed. Oh, I want to talk about January 6th. Sure. Let's talk about January 6th. But are you so brainwashed by Democrat media that you don't notice something crazier that happened from March to January? No? You didn't notice like a lockdown, forced masking. None of that matters to a Democrat because of January 6th. You forgot an entire year, the most tyrannical year that I've ever seen in modern history. That doesn't exist. That's not one of the worst years since Pearl Harbor and Civil War. No, just January 6th, not March through November 2020. Nothing was done there. But because Democrats are brainwashed by like Whoopi Goldberg style, they don't want to talk about it. And to be fair, in my opinion, a lot of Republicans are brainwashed by Trump. Oh no, all they want to talk November. I'll talk about November 2020, but that takes away from the bipartisan corruption of March through November. Nobody wants to talk about that. Do you get it? It's all a little game. Team red, team blue, blah, 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 blah. What about all that? And with that being said, it's insane what they did. I'm glad that Democrats are now finally stopping to lie about it, but it's too little too late, and something needs to be done as far as a spotlight needs to be shown on these people. I hope the House Republicans actually do something, even though they're partially complicit. We can't allow something like this to happen again. And I'll say this, because I don't have any sort of power to really do anything. So all I can say is the truth. Any mainstream, like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all the people that were deleting all this stuff, you deleted the lab leak theory for over a year, and now the FBI believes in it. I have the compilation, I played it last time, of all the idiots on mainstream media calling it a conspiracy theory and kooky. Now the FBI believes that, and now it's like a mainstream theory that most people think. I'm not saying it's true, I have no idea, but that's what it is. They did the same thing about every aspect of this pandemic. So all I could say is if you were one of the people in mainstream media that covered all this stuff up, that just acted like a cog in the machine, a stupid pawn with a big mouth, you know, like the people at The View, etc. And there's others, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, even some people at Fox. And that's what you did for 2 years, smearing people trying to figure out where all this came from, smearing all the kids who tried to take their masks off, deleting videos on your social media when kids were crying for help and workers were crying for help, justifying millions of people losing their job because they won't inject themselves with synthetic mRNA, where Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna, Johnson & Johnson's not mRNA, but the other two were, they have no liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths, and you guys all knew that. And if you were one of the people pushing forced vaccines and forced mandates and forced masking, or if you were one of the people deleting the people that were protesting peacefully against it, every day you wake up, you should feel absolutely ashamed of yourself, and you should know exactly what you did to people. You hurt hundreds of millions of people. I don't have the power to do anything about it, but if you watch my video, I'm gonna make you feel the truth. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should feel it in your soul, all the evil you've done. You should apologize and you should repent, because the amount of people covering up this stuff, forced masking, forced vaccination, the amount of people at YouTube and Facebook and all the mainstream media that had to create this illusion that you couldn't say that for 2 years, as they abused your children, as they abused workers, as they abused people, as people got fatter, as people had record overdoses, as you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't travel, you couldn't go to an event unless you're breaking windows for George Floyd. You couldn't do anything. And they got all of that stuff. And the vaccine companies made all their money. And now all of a sudden they're willing to tell the truth because they already got what they wanted. You should feel ashamed of yourself every single day you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror. You should see an absolute demon, okay? That's what these people did to everybody. And for them to just come out now, like the Eric Adams of the world and others, although it's not particularly his fault, you know, he's just another idiot cog in the machine, another spineless, soulless, you know, guy trying to be cool with his power, but really just like has no spine whatsoever. You know, these people should just be absolutely ashamed of themselves, because now it's all coming out. It always was going to come out, but here's the thing, and here's what we have to look for. The next time that they try to do something like this, they know timelines. Like, and this is why it's important not to be delusional with partisan politics. Let me tell you why they did what they did, and then let me tell you the main theory in left-wing and right-wing media, which is not right. Why the emergency? Oh, well, the emergency in Operation Warp Speed and rushing the vaccines. Why is rushing the vaccines good for Big Pharma? Let's just use our brains real quick before we get into what most people on the Trump side are saying, which is psychotic and delusional and false. They're just saying it because they like Donald Trump and he was the Operation Warp Speed guy, okay? Why is this good for Big Pharma? Well, let's just go through a few things. they don't have to wait 5 years to make money. They don't have to go through long-term trials. They don't have to go through the data they normally go through. They can just Operation Warp Speed it to public quickly and just bypass that and make more money than they've ever made while the fear's still high. If it would have taken 5 years, most people wouldn't have wanted to get the product. They needed it there now because they were holding us for ransom. We couldn't go anywhere, and they were going to use it as a tool to try to basically tell us that we'd get all our stuff back. So if it didn't get Operation Warp Speeded by Trump, the FDA, Fauci, it wouldn't have been a successful product. They needed it for that time period. Why else did they need it? Because they need to get it done under an emergency, because under an emergency, they have no liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths. So if they can rush it to the public under a health emergency quickly, then it doesn't matter how many people get hurt from the product. It doesn't exist because the media will cover it up. Social media will delete all the videos about vaccine injuries, and they'll make tens or hundreds of billions of dollars off the product. Meanwhile, nobody can say that they're being hurt from the product, and nobody can sue them because they have no liability for it. So that's what Operation Warp Speed did. Now let's get to the brainwashed right-wingers who say, oh, Trump rushed the vaccine to save the world. If he didn't rush the vaccine, we would have been locked down for 7 years. Do you see how quickly people lose their minds over false idol worship over a politician? Trump got $1 million from Pfizer to save the world. Trump hired Alex Azar, Eli Lilly, pharmacy executive, lobbyist to run HHS to save the world. Eli Lilly, executive pharma guy that Trump put at the highest position in the land, declared an emergency not to help big pharma, but to save the world. Donald Trump gave all the vaccine companies tens of billions of dollars to save the world. He locked the country down to save the world. He rushed the vaccines to save the world. I mean, do you see yourselves? Do people see it? Oh, but it's just it's not the left. This is the most popular. What I just said is the most popular theory among Trump conservatives. They don't want to admit the truth. They just want to pretend like he must have done it for a different reason because I like him. No, he didn't hire a pharmacy lobbyist to save us from lockdowns. He didn't take $1 million from Pfizer to save us from lockdowns. He didn't put Scott Gottlieb at the FDA to save us from lockdowns. He didn't do Operation Warp Speed to save us from lockdowns. And he didn't strong arm the FDA to get this out earlier to save us from lockdowns. He did it to get it done before Biden got in office so he could take credit for it. And that's exactly what he does. He says it's his vaccine. He wants credit for it. He doesn't give a crap about you. Are you joking? You think he did it to save the world from 5 years of lockdowns? You think people would have stayed locked down for 5 years? You don't think there would have been backlash? If this vaccine took 5 years and it didn't come out, think about it. It hasn't even been 5 years. What's 5 years? 2025? You think anybody's going to want a COVID-19 vaccine in 2025? Of course not. That number is going to go from 80% to 10%. They didn't rush it for you, dummies. They rushed it for Big Pharma. But you'll have 95% of Trump influencers still repeating that lie because people are brainwashed by partisan politics. So, how is anything ever going to get done in this country when that's the side that we're on? We're on the side of people that believe if they stand on the Capitol that the pedophiles are going to be arrested. And if they just make up lies for pharmacy corruption, that one day it's going to be healed. No, it's not. No one's coming to save you. I said this before the lockdowns. I said this before January 6th. And anybody that listened to me fared a lot better than the people who got brainwashed into thinking that rushing vaccines was to fight the lockdowns. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big Pharma's shaking in their pants. They just got tens of billions of dollars. Oh, wow. Big Pharma's shaking in their boots, guys. They just got their product warp speeded and they just made record profits. Wow. What a threat to the elites. Like, are people that stupid? I think so. I really think so. And that's why I don't even want to do this job for that long. Because if that's my side, count me out. You know what I'm saying? I'll stack up, make money, move into the woods. You'll never hear from me again. Because I don't have the time to do this for 20 years. If this is what people want to do, if that's our side, if that's our team, just now calling me a DeSimp because Donald Trump is calling DeSantis what he did. DeSantis closed beaches. DeSantis sells the vaccine too much. And people are drooling. Yeah, DeSantis. Like, Trump did all those things too. And instead of taking accountability, he's just going to act like only DeSantis did it. And people are going to believe it. Please tell me that this is not going to be the next 2 years. Please tell me that people woke up. But for now, Mayor Eric Adams says New York City shoppers need to drop the mask. Oh, wow. Too much crime, Eric Adams? Is it a bad idea to make everybody role play like a robber to fight a virus that a vaccine doesn't even stop? Oh, yeah, if everybody gets 4 vaccines and wears masks, the virus is going to go away. Everybody's going to stop getting sick. How many vaccines have you gotten? How many masks did you wear? Did the virus escape New York City? It was never going to happen. These idiots, these complete con artists, these total weasels, treated people like absolute garbage, like slaves, like peasants, like serfs, like captured war prisoners, like you got captured by the Chinese military and they're torturing you for 2 years, deleting all the videos of people telling the truth about it. But now that they can't cover it up anymore, hey, I'm Mayor Eric Adams. Can you please take your mask off? Please take your mask off, please. I need you to take your mask off because the stores are getting robbed. Really? Who would have thought dressing up like a bank robber was a bad idea? Oh, but it's to stop a virus that it's not stopping. But if you say it's not stopping it, they'll delete your video. Yeah, I guess you should just go get 4 COVID vaccines and wear a mask everywhere. I'm sure you'll never get sick. I just got sick. I got 5 booster shots and I wore my mask everywhere. How come I got sick? Do you want to know how science works? Like, here, let's try it real quick. Am I gonna get deleted off YouTube for this like they did? Do you know how air works? Is this? Oh, my mask is working so good. Oh my gosh. Rachel Maddow told me I'm fighting the deep Trump's really gonna be mad at this, huh? If I wear my mask like this, then, Trump's gonna go to jail for his tax returns. Did you see Rand Paul? That crazy kook. Fauci really, like, do you not know how air works? No? You don't know how air works? So you wear that, you get 4 synthetic mRNA injections, and you still got sick? I don't know. Consider me a conspiracy theorist, but here's a few things you might want to try. Diet, exercise, not being a total psychopath, getting outdoors, airflow, not allowing your nasal things to be blocked. You get what I'm saying? Like, these are all practices, like, when you take a shower, running some water through there so you're not all stuffy. You should try that. But if you just sit there like a fragile, frail skeleton, like the psycho LA health director who looks like a Halloween ornament, if your body's like withering away because you're sitting inside like a psychopath wearing a mask for 2 years and you don't take care of yourself and you just keep getting sick, I don't know. Maybe it's not healthy to do that. I've never got sick more in my life than when I just sat inside too much. Sitting inside is like the worst thing you could do. Exercise, going out, having a social life. These are all things that are actually healthy to do. Not sitting inside, getting your rocks off to synthetic mRNA Pfizer ads. It's just insane. But that's it. Mayor Eric Adams is demanding that shoppers drop the mask, and he's saying to prevent robberies, that he needs to tell shopkeepers to bar customers. That now it goes from it's like a stupid Dr. Seuss movie we live in. It goes from don't let people in your store without a mask on. 3 years later, the virus, quote unquote, the sickness, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, it's still here. People are still getting sick. They're still testing positive on PCR tests for COVID-19. It didn't go anywhere because the vaccine didn't actually do what they said it was going to do originally. So for 2 years, or actually 3 months, it went from don't let people in the store without a mask on to don't come in the store if you have a mask. Don't let people in the store. It's like opposite day. Dude, liberals are going to freak out. I can't wait to see it. It's I'm a good person. I'm a really good citizen of New York City. This city's going to shit, but damn do I look good in my mask. Of course I'm ugly and I'm getting acne because my face is all screwed up. And, my skin is getting destroyed and my ears hurt really bad because these things are just ripping my ears forward. But, it's a conspiracy theory to say that might hurt me physically because when my ears get ripped like this and I'm having physical pain, that's a sign that the Q shaman's telling me that's a bad. It's healthy for my ears to just rip them forward with a plastic mask on my face. And then it's they're like, excuse me, hey, ma'am, can you take your mask off? Because the mayor told us you got to take your mask off to come in stores. What the hell do you mean I have to take my mask off? I'm a law-abiding citizen, Democrat voter. I'm never taking my mask off. I'm saving the world with my mask on. I hate to be confusing. I know a couple months ago it was you had to have a mask to come in the store. But something changed. I don't know. The science changed. Liana Wen changed her mind. Dr. Fauci pooped his pants, and now summer lasts for 5 more years. It's like Punxsutawney Fauci pooped his pants, which means 4 more months of mask. I don't know what to tell you. Like the rules change, and now you can't have a mask. I can't let you in the store with a mask. What the hell? How are you going to do that? I've been doing this for 12 years. Like, I can't wait to see those interactions. Telling millions of liberals they can't wear a mask in the store, they're gonna freaking lose their mind, and they're gonna lose their mind because their whole life is a lie. They think it matters. They think they're a good person. They've literally been abusing themselves via Stockholm syndrome for 2 years and just withering away physically, mentally, and they're going to lose their minds. It's going to be insane. I met a Democrat nurse when I was in Florida, and she told me that a lot of the nurses hate the masks because it's not like, oh, I just wear it when I go to Whole Foods. It's like they have to wear it for like 15 hours a day and they're losing their minds. It's been like 2 years, and all these nurses, they always wear K95 masks in certain rooms, but they never had to wear masks before, and they still have to wear masks. Even the Democrat nurses are losing their minds because of this stuff. And this is what I want to tell people where they're like, oh, Trump had to wear the mask. Trump had to sell the vaccine. No, he doesn't. The vaccine is not popular, even among Democrats. Forced masking is no longer popular. Don't let the psycho people on television act like it's so popular. It's not. Even most Democrat nurses want to take their masks off. They're wearing it too much. It's not a role play for them when they go to freaking, Erewhon. It's the real thing. That's why it's important to stand in truth. It might not be popular now, but it will be. People will catch up. You don't have to become a Democrat to stop the Democrats. The only way to fight the deep state is to become them. The only way to stop pharma is to become them. It's like people make excuses for Republicans because Republicans are such cucks that everyone's like, oh, the only way to fight the deep state is to hire them. We can't beat the pharma people unless we expose them by giving them money and giving them positions. It's like, no, that's not how it works, bucko, but that's definitely how they want you to think it works, because if everybody think it works that way, then they'll just keep doing it. So let's pray people wake up, and then I need to breathe. Sometimes people say breathe, and I'm like, it's a valid point. I don't breathe as often as I should when I'm live, but I have a little stuffy nose. Maybe I should go get a few synthetic mRNA injections to get my nose unstuffed. Just kidding. Last story of the day. Thanks for being here. I'm not going to play the clip because I don't want them to copyright strike it, but you can go to my Instagram at Dream Rare. You can go to my Facebook, or you can go to my YouTube. I have a short, a YouTube short with a rectangle video. Anyway, I don't know, is it ESPN? Is it one of the other shows? I don't even know. But JJ Redick, former basketball player, and Kendrick Perkins, former basketball player, they're both NBA analysts now. They had like a pretty heated back and forth because basically, for those who don't understand basketball, I'll just break it down very quickly to you. The last two MVPs for last year and the year before is a guy named Nikola Jokic, and he's probably going to win this year, which will make him one of the few people who've won the MVP 3 times in the regular season. It's an incredible feat. It's crazy to win it 1 time. This guy's won it 3 times. The problem is, the controversy is, he's a white guy. He's from Serbia. He's European. He's white, and he's dominating the NBA right now. His team is number 1 in the West. He triple doubles like almost every game. He's going he's 7 foot tall. He could dribble. He's a better passer than most point guards. He could shoot threes. The dude is an absolute animal. He gets like 13 rebounds a game, and he's white, the best player in the NBA, at least in the regular season. I understand he's probably not the best player. LeBron's still good. Giannis Antetokounmpo is amazing. Embiid is good. There's a lot. Doncic is good, who's also white, but there's a lot of good players. It's just like regular season, I feel like Nikola Jokic is just crushing, and he stays pretty healthy, so he doesn't miss a lot of games. That's important for the MVP as well. And Kendrick Perkins basically is trying to say that he's suggesting like maybe he's winning the MVP more than he should because he's white. And he's saying it in a coded way, being like, I've run some stats, and, the only people who've won it who weren't top 10 in scoring this year were like, I think it was like, Nash and, what was it? What's the other? Dirk Nowitzki. And he's like basically hinting over and over that maybe that the voters or whoever votes for the MVP, that they're just doing because he's white, or, white people get certain privileges in the voting, which I don't think is true. And then JJ Redick came out and was like, you're making this narrative. It's ridiculous. You're basically saying the voters are racist, and Kendrick Perkins freaked out. My reaction to it, because I kind of made a video on Facebook and YouTube, but I didn't say much. I just said, what do you think? I gave it down. My personal opinion is Kendrick Perkins is probably the worst and dumbest person I've ever seen on ESPN. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I know people will consider that racist. I'm not saying it because he has kind of a Southern accent. I'm not saying it because he speaks in like, kind of like broken English sometimes. There's tons of people who speak in broken English. There's tons of people who speak with Southern accents that I enjoy. I don't expect you to have a big vocabulary. I don't expect you to have like, that's not why I don't like Kendrick Perkins. It's not because he doesn't speak white, because that's going to be the accusation. It's going to be like, oh, you don't like him. No, I like hundreds of people who speak just like Kendrick Perkins, like, his style. I just think he's stupid. Every time I hear him, I'm like, how in the world does he even have a job here? Not even his opinion on Jokic. I don't care. It's just like I'm like, it's almost like a parody. I'm like, how, out of all the people, how did he get this position? Because he was a former basketball player. There's way better former basketball players that have not only better opinions, but sound like they can formulate a sentence without like messing up all the time. Every time I see him on ESPN, I'm like, dude, this guy sucks at his job, in my opinion. And it's not a knock on, I'm just saying, that's just how I feel. So to hear him saying that it's racism, that Jokic, or like hinting it, I'm not shocked. It's like, that's his role, I guess, because his role is he's not the best at like reading sentences. He's not the best at, speaking cohesively. So what's his role there at ESPN? He's a former player that kind of just gives it to you raw. Like Shaq doesn't speak like that fluidly, but Shaq is hilarious. He's honest. He's definitely has like a good personality. I don't see that with Kendrick. So I don't watch enough of JJ Redick to really have a stance on his analysis, but I've seen Kendrick Perkins more. I'm not shocked. I mean, this is not what ESPN does now. Everything's a racial angle. Everything is this, everything is that. If you ever break the mold, there's going to be someone who has an opinion. Two reasons. One, there's too much commentary. ESPN used to be highlights. Now we have to hear about Megan Rapinoe and the Canadian women's team and their triumph for 40 hours. It's like, enough. Yeah, sure. But all they do, like the talk shows maybe get clicks or something, so now they just talk for 10 hours a day. If you're going to talk about one sports game for 10 hours a day, you're going to go around the sun a few times and you're going to get every opinion. So I think in one way it's natural to have these opinions coming out because there's just so much time. It's like 24-hour news. Like you have 24 hours to tell the news. Imagine if I was here for 24 hours. Think about it. What wouldn't I say? Imagine if this was Anomaly News Network and I had 20 people like me and they all talked. What wouldn't be said in 24 hours? I stay for an hour, 2 hours max, and that's enough. That's more than enough. Imagine it's too much commentary, too much. It's overstimulation. But also, the world we live in is like everything has to have a racial angle. So if you're Nikola Jokic, you're white, you're European, and you're dominating. You won the MVP 2 years in a row, and you're about to win it 3 years in a row. It was only a matter of time until somebody said it was because he's white, not because he gets triple doubles all the time. Last year, it could have been him or Joel Embiid. It was very close. I think, Antetokounmpo is the best player, but I don't think he was healthy the whole season. And there's, it's not an MVP. Like you win the MVP for the playoffs or the finals if you're in the finals, but for the regular season's the regular season. It just is what it is. Last year, it could have went either way. This year, I think Jokic is way ahead. He's really, really good. But he's white. So this is supposed to be a sport that's dominated by mostly black people. I think there's going to be analysts that are upset that, Jokic is just crushing. Same with Luka Doncic. It's only a matter of time until people accuse him of stuff. He's really good. He scores a lot and he's from like Lithuania or something. So, there's going to be opinions, obviously. Who cares though? I don't think it's that crazy or it's that upsetting. I like the back and forth between Redick and Perkins. I think it's healthy as long as, everything is chill. I'm not really that concerned about it. I think it's worth talking about, but Kendrick Perkins has a right to say what he says. He has a right to feel a racial angle. JJ Redick has a right to disagree, and that's life. I don't think it's that dramatic or shocking, but it is definitely interesting and worth kind of addressing. But, this is going to be the reality of anybody in general. Like I saw Melly Mel, who's a rapper, like a very famous rapper from the olden days. I would say he's one of the pioneers of hip hop. He said that basically Eminem was only Eminem because he was white. Also not true. I'm not even that huge of a fan of Eminem anymore, but like, there's always going to be that guy with that opinion. It's like everything's colonized. You're a colonizer. Everything's bad. Like, it's like, whatever. It doesn't really affect me. I think no matter what your skin color is, you didn't choose to be that way. Nikola Jokic didn't ask to be from Serbia. LeBron James didn't ask to be black. And on that note, when people do great things, it's good to just appreciate them and understand that, wow, you're watching greatness. That's amazing that they're so good at it. And as a citizen yourself, whether you're black or you're white or you're Asian, I think God made you the way he made you for a reason. And your job is to really max out your stats and just be the best version of yourself you could be. That's all you could really do. And I think when you do that, life is good. I don't think Nikola Jokic really cares what people think. He's living a great life. Like, I don't think LeBron cares what people think that much. I don't think if you become a great version of yourself, regardless of what ethnicity you are, I don't think you're going to really care what others say about you because, actions speak louder than words. And, everybody has a right to be great at something. And it's basketball. Everybody's going to have an opinion. But that's the NBA now. It's like super quote unquote woke, BLM, can't talk about the people that don't exist, like Kyrie Irving did. There's certain rules that they're going to play by. It's like they love China because it's a massive market and China has a government that cares if you talk bad about them. So it's not a good idea to talk bad about China and lose that market, but it is a good idea to talk bad about America because Americans generally are nice and don't care, the race thing. All I'll say is this, then I'm out. Thank you, JJ Redick, for pushing back. I mean, the fact that he's white, it doesn't really matter, but it's like, it's a bold move, whether you're black or white, being at a network and pushing back against the narrative of race. It's a bold move, like he's going to get a lot of love, probably more love than backlash. People are going to agree. But with the networks and stuff, they want you to be like a little puppet. That's just how it is, whether it's ESPN, whether it's CBS, ABC, NBC, like don't step out of line or else you're in trouble. So it's like, the best people on TV for the networks are the people who just have no stances or just go, read what they're read or read what they're given, just say it, just don't ruffle feathers. And I think that JJ Redick is going to ruffle a lot of feathers with that comment. So we'll see what happens. But it's a healthy combo. I mean, this is America. A lot of people agree with Kendrick Perkins. A lot of people agree with JJ Redick. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't even care about race angle, even when it goes against my beliefs. All I ask for, and I'll end on this note, just be equal with it. That's all I'm saying. If you want to be black or be white and talk about white stuff and racism, I don't care. But if someone does the opposite and questions BLM, don't cry racism. That's my only thing. I actually don't mind when people talk about race. I understand the difference between individuals and demographics and, I guess like stereotypes and statistics. And I know the difference between individual souls. I get it. I understand there's a place to treat people like individuals and there's a place to study statistics. I'm not offended by it. But the annoying part about TV stuff is they dish it out all the time, but they can't take it. It's like, how many times have they dished out their racial narrative? Like 1 million times? Who cares? Am I crying about it? I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. But if it's like millions of times you dish it out, if one time JJ Redick dishes it out and then they cry about it, it'll be very telling. You know what I'm saying? We'll see how they react to it. Because if you dish it out all the time, just be ready for someone to disagree. And same thing with like the Kyrie Irving documentary. The reason that was so funny is because equivalent people have done crazier stuff in the NBA. You can't say no homo or they'll fine you. If you post a Black Hebrew Israel documentary, they cry, but you could post something 20 times more offensive than that. I didn't even watch the documentary, but it's like you do deals with Amazon and it's on Amazon, but Kyrie Irving's not allowed to post the Amazon link because you don't like the video. What if he posts the Cable Guy with Jim Carrey and you don't like the Cable Guy? Can you suspend him? I hate that movie. How dare you say that's one of the funnier movies? It's not funny. Like, where does the line end? I mean, a basketball player is allowed to have an opinion. Maybe he is a Black Hebrew Israelite. I'm not saying that's They're not my favorite people because they just stand on the corner and yell at everybody and they're super hostile. But I don't, it's like if you're going to draw a line, just have the line make sense. That's all I'm saying. If that's the line, then that's the line. But this is the line for some people. This is the line for some people. That's offensive, but that's fine. You can't kneel. You can't. Just be fair. A lot of people agree with Kendrick Perkins. A lot of people agree with JJ Redick. But the JJ Redick side has been demonized. The JJ Redick side has been silenced. The JJ Redick side has been essentially like removed from the mainstream media. So, there needs to be at least a real conversation about it to get to what is true and what's not. Because I don't personally think Nikola Jokic's skin color has anything to do with him winning the MVP 3 times. I think he's had 3 really good seasons. And I think one of his 2 MVPs, it's debatable because it's like pound for, I don't know if you guys watch MMA, but it's like pound for pound. It's all kind of subjective because let me tell you, like heavyweight, that's the champion. Welterweight, that's the champion. Lightweight, that's the champion. You know who the champion is because they fight. But pound for pound is when you take all the weight classes of people who never fight each other and you just pick one of them to be at the top. It's easy to get it wrong because there's really no right answer because it's all subjective. It's not like, oh, you won the finals, you're the champion. It's like, who's better, LeBron James or Kevin Durant? Well, in what way? They're both really good. Or Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. They're both really good. How do you choose an MVP? I think there's several criteria, although it's impossible to be like perfect because there's no right answer. How valuable are you to your team? What makes you more valuable to your team? Is it points? Is it assists? Is it wins? Is it rebounds? Is it how good your team is when you're not there? All of these things weigh into who the MVP is, and it's really like a decision. In my opinion, between him and Joel Embiid last year, Embiid is really good. Embiid and his stats were very similar. Both teams were pretty close. Like, how do you decide? I mean, not by race. I don't think it's like white guy good, black guy not. Like, I don't think that's how they do it. I think they're like, well, Joel Embiid is very good, but maybe they look at stats, and I don't know, but it's like, how does the team do when Joel Embiid's gone? How does the team do when Nikola Jokic is gone? In my opinion, Nikola Jokic went ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the best players, because he didn't play 6 or 7 or 8 games. He played 8 games less than Jokic. Like, he was out for a bigger portion of the season. So it's hard to give someone an MVP when they don't play as much as other players. Like, you got to be healthy. You got to be good. I think without Nikola Jokic, that team just isn't even a good team, but certain other players without their star player, it's a better team. It's a tough, the point that I'm getting to is there's no subjective answer. I don't think race comes into play. I think Jokic is going to win this year for sure because he's like leagues better than everybody, in my opinion, for how good the team's doing, how good his stats are. But at least I would say, let's just be honest about it. It's not a cut and dry sort of thing because there's talented players on every team. There's a lot of great players, a lot of great teams, and one of them gets to be the MVP of the regular season. I don't know. I'm not afraid of the convo and discussion, but that's my take. God bless you guys. Appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, and I'll be back with more videos soon. A few links is a dreamrarelinks.com that has all my links. You could check out the quick cut of that debate on there on my Instagram, etc. Dreamrare.com has these blue hats and black hats. I'm working on new products. I'm always working on stuff, but I'll just stop saying I'm working on stuff and I'll let you know when it's done because the truth is I'm always working on something behind the scenes. The reality is it takes way longer and I'm picky and, life is not perfect, so certain things fall through. But I'll let you know, obviously, like book, music, new products. That's always every day I'm putting work in, and I'll let you know when it's there. But for now, we have black beanies, blue beanies, freedom versus tyranny shirts, a few cool hat designs. A few of my black hats are sold out. White hats are sold out, I think, for regular hats. You'll see if you go to dreamrare.com. But appreciate you guys. Have a good one, and I'll be back soon.